Hi, everyone. I'm Axios host and editor, Niala Boodhoo. I have a question for you all. It's a little poll. If you have ordered something from Amazon in the past month, will you raise your hand? Oh, okay. I should have done that before Kara. I should have done that after Kara Hurst came out. But please welcome the Chief Sustainability Officer for Amazon, Kara Hurst. You missed it. Everyone had their hands up. Have you heard that question? Welcome to Axios House. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Kara, let's start with the climate pledge that Amazon co-founded 5 years ago. Now there's more than 525 companies that are on board. Can you explain a little bit more about this, Amazon's involvement?
Yeah, no, we're super excited about that and to be here at Climate Week this year. In 2019, we had been working across Amazon, looking at the science, reading IPCC reporting, and thinking really about what our own ambition was, and thinking about how we could go faster. So we committed to being net zero carbon across our global operations by 2040. And thought one of the big things that we wanted to do was to hopefully inspire others with the size and the scale of our company and our operations, and also work among the many, many industries that we're in across our company to begin to send big demand signals with those industries. But we know we can't do that alone, as big as we are. There's no one industry we can decarbonize. There's no influence that we can have that's big. So we wanted to invite others in, both to do this with us, to share solutions, importantly to share failures, to talk about how we're doing this. And so we said with that commitment, we wanted to create it as a pledge, but more importantly, a community of action. So we co-founded the Climate Pledge with Global Optimism, led by, importantly, Christiana Figueres and Tom Karnak. Christiana, of course, architected the Paris Agreement that was committed to 2050, and the idea was, let's do this 10 years faster. So the Climate Pledge is commitment to net zero carbon by 2040. And then, of course, we hit a global pandemic. We had a supply chain crisis. We didn't know where this was going to go. But it's amazing to see in 5 years, 525 companies across 59 different industries, 45 different countries. This is a very global effort, a very multi-industry effort. Companies, organizations, we have a football club, we have sports organizations, we have many different kinds of companies joining.
And on a related note, you all recently just started working on some of this in India, in particular looking at last mile charging stations. Can you tell us a little bit about that, the Joint Action Project?
Absolutely. So, of course, we run one of the biggest logistics and transportation networks in the world. And so we've been working for a long time at decarbonizing that part of our business. We committed to buying 100,000 electric delivery vans and putting them on the road by 2030, largest ever order of electric delivery vehicles. And we already have 24,000.
That's here in the U.S. This is in
U.S.
Okay.
In Europe. We have already 100,000, we have 24,000 of those on the road already. In India specifically, where, we know we want to tackle decarbonization, we have a big business in India. We have 7,300 of those on the road. We have a commitment to have 10,000 on the road by 2025. And we also, though, know joint action is very important. So 2 things that we've done, 2 projects in conjunction with Climate Pledge companies. One is called Project Jewel, just launched last week, so very exciting. In Bengaluru, we have a project that we're working with 5 different companies. So Mahindra Logistics, Uber, another company involved in that, where we're working on joint charging stations together. So this is coming together, building those charging stations where we'll share that charging network so we can all charge our EVs. It's creating jobs, it's creating electric charging networks where we'll share that together. The other project is one that's a public-private partnership. Super exciting. Many of you will be familiar with the network C40. So a lot of leading mayors across the world, leading cities that are committed to sustainability. And we created a partnership with C40. And we're doing this in 4 cities in India, 6 in Latin America, where we're working on medium and heavy road freight. So this is a little bit of a different part of the transportation logistics supply chain. And we're working on decarbonizing those cities together in conjunction with the mayors and their cities. And really exciting to see that investment. We've put $10 million into it, and we're encouraging other companies. But we have 17 joint action projects going with companies amongst the climate pledge. So this is a really action-oriented community, which has been exciting.
And what is the philosophy? How would you describe the philosophy from Amazon's standpoint as a corporate citizen when it comes to sending, for example, demand signals to the rest of the industry?
I think, one of the things that's so important that we hear over and over again is pledges are great, ideas are great, commitments are great, but action's where it's at. And one of the best ways that the private sector can demonstrate action is by making an order, sending a demand signal. That old expression, put your money where your mouth is. Are you serious about this? Are you going to place an order for electric vehicles? Are you going to purchase renewable energy? And so when I think about, again, the scale that we have, or collectively, the scale that we all have, if you're a smaller company, what can you do, collectively with other companies? I'm really proud that our company has been the largest purchaser of renewable energy for the last 4 years running. So that is a thing that we invested in, and that means, we want to say we think wind and solar are incredibly important. We made a commitment to be 100% renewable across our global operations by 2030 when we committed to the pledge. We looked at that. We looked at wind and solar, utility scale, thought we can go faster. We moved that up to 2025, and we've been working on that, investing, frankly, billions of dollars. We've been moving at scale, and we actually hit it in 2023. So we are now 100% renewable across our global operations. We match that energy. And, these are the kinds of things. We have a 28 gigawatt portfolio. And I know a lot of companies are working on this. And there's a lot of things, when you send those demand signals. Another one is in these buyers alliances. Mm-hmm. So we've worked with the maritime industry and created Zero Emission Maritime Buyers Alliance. So this is working with ports, working with companies like Maersk, who signed the pledge, where we came together and said, we want solutions. We're going to need green hydrogen. We're going to need transformation of old port infrastructure. And we want to send a signal that we want zero emission ships. But Maersk can't, and others can't transform their supply chains unless they hear from folks like us who demand this as customers, right? Same goes for many of these different industries. So we issued an RFP collectively with 26 different companies. And now they can go back to their boards of directors and say, our customers demand this. So these demand signals are so, so important. We hear this over and over and over again.
Well, and it's interesting as we're talking about Amazon's role as a convener, but you mentioned the customer. And I think most Amazon customers think about packaging. And when you say, like, you're the CSO for Amazon, they want to, and I'm always scrutinizing my Amazon packages. I have to say, I'm always sort of looking at what do they come in. I'm just curious how many more consumers are choosing less packaging, grouping deliveries together, the things that you all are offering to try to reduce waste on that end.
Yeah, absolutely. If you work at Amazon, you hear about packaging a lot. And that's great. One of the things we've been working on for well over a decade is both reduction of the packaging material. So hopefully any of you who are customers and ordering from Amazon are seeing less packaging material come to you. You may have even seen the item come to you with no packaging. That's called ships in product packaging. Where you just get an item with a label. Sometimes it's jarring to people. They're not sure why they got that, but that's an actual program we're trying to accelerate, where we ship an item to you just with the label on it. And sometimes it comes in a new material. That's another thing we do. We try to reinvent packaging materials, so fully recyclable materials that people could put in their what we call a blue bin in the United States, or in a way that becomes fully circularized. And we actually have even on my team a materials science group and a materials lab in Seattle, where we work on packaging material and reinvent materials. And we're doing a lot of work on the circularity of those materials. So it's everything from thinking about the life cycle of the materials, new materials invention, to thinking about reducing the materials themselves. It's a win for us. It takes cost out of the business. It's certainly a win for the customer. You don't want that waste at the end of the day. And it saves all around. So it's good for business, good for the customer.
As a chief sustainability officer, I wonder how you think about efforts that, I don't know if your brain works this way, if you're thinking about these sort of individual versus corporate efforts, or maybe more accurately, consumer efforts versus corporate efforts.
Well, certainly I think about all of them. I'm a customer. It's one of the reasons I wanted to come work at Amazon. I loved the company. I loved shopping online. And I think one of the things you want to do is make it really easy for people. So we've also created programs for our customers. We have something called Climate Pledge Friendly, which allows you to filter your shopping. And we've created a badge. We have over 1.4 million products in this program now. And we've created this, we work with our science team to create the highest bar of carbon reducing and sustainable. There's a lot of eco labels out there. So we kind of always research what are the best of the best. And then we work with other, of these eco labels to say, like, we enroll them in the program and then work with other consumer product companies to teach them about that and get that label onto their product. One thing I will tell you is we have new data on this. And so we have seen a 12% sales lift for products in the first year of this program. That is amazing.
So for people saying that it's very interesting because Ali Zaidi was here earlier and talking about having a culture shift and thinking about how we change culture to have people investing in something that may be more expensive, but was built to last longer or with a more green, with less of a carbon footprint.
Well, ideally, it shouldn't be a trade-off. Ideally, you want to give people, we're about selection and, low cost and sustainability. I don't think it has to be a trade-off.
So you have held a variety of jobs. You started off in government, in academia, and now in the private sector. How much of your job is translating all of these things to different audiences and just sort of speaking a language or translating what you're saying to whoever the audience is at the time?
I would say every day, all day.
What's the big difference? Like, would you say?
I like to think about it as sort of like people who are multilingual. I speak NGO, I speak academic, I speak science, and I speak corporate. And I think that's really important because we do speak different languages. And I think one of the things that we become way too precious about in sustainability is our language. And our jargon, and I think we have to knock it off, frankly. And I think we need to really democratize all of this and make it very accessible and invite a lot more people into this conversation.
As you think about that and inviting a lot more people into this conversation, we've been ending on one fun Climate Week thing. And I wanted to ask you about your mindset. I think sometimes we say, like, what is your tip for being more sustainable? But I want to just ask you more instead about how you cultivate that mindset of sustainability and consumption.
One thing, well, I don't know if this is exactly an answer to your question, but one thing I know I'm working a lot on and our teams is being joyful and optimistic about this, because I think it's incredibly important if you're going to do this work to have hope. There are incredible solutions out there. I have the real privilege of seeing a lot of those. They're not necessarily all yet at scale. Can you share something that you've just thought of recently that fits this? We have a company, we have a climate pledge fund, and we invest in early stage decarbonizing solutions. I was able a little while back to go see a group we invest in called Hippo Harvest. They're doing robotic farming where we're growing lettuces with next to no water, no pesticides, and it was incredible. And there was a bunch of folks down in California growing these lettuces with what I think is going to be, a revolutionary technology. People are coming up with incredible things, or electric aviation, or new electrolyzers for the hydrogen economy. People are so creative, and these solutions do exist. We have to get behind them. Women are a lot of times behind them, and we're not funding women enough. So we have a climate gender equity fund. I'm going to plug as much stuff as I can here. But no, I think that, there's so many reasons to be hopeful. And I think that there's a reason to have hope. We still have time. And I think cultivating a lot of that hope and joy and optimism and, not being proprietary about your solutions and sharing as much about, what's out there and how things are working and where you've, tried and tested and, something's working or where it's failed and why it's failed is incredibly important. And so we're just trying to do as much of that as possible.
Well, thank you for taking the time to share some of that with us today. Amazon's Chief Sustainability Officer, Kara Hurst. And
thank you so much.
You guys want to stay right here? We're going to have a quick word with our publisher, and after that, our final guest.
Thank you.
Thank you.